Good.
You're live.
Hey y'all, I'm Robbie, this is Don, and tonight we're going to talk about the Canik Rival SFX-S. Now this is a new pistol that Canik has released, Century Arms is importing into the United States, and I'm telling you, it is an absolutely incredible pistol. But before we really jump into that, just want to let you guys know there's a super chat available down below, and please make sure to subscribe and like our channel and share it with your friends if you have a chance. Now let's just kind of jump into the Canik and talk about it a little bit. Don, you've had some experience with it already, had it out to the range and got to have a little bit of trigger time with it.
Yeah.
What was your initial thoughts with the pistol?
Well, you know, the Canik Rival, the original, was a polymer frame, and the trigger on it for a striker fire, even not necessarily even a striker fire, the trigger is just phenomenal.
Yeah. It really reminds me of a really good 1911, like a custom 1911 trigger right out of the box.
And that's one thing that Canik's really been good about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's with striker fire, so it's tough.
Yeah. Caniks and Walthers are really, really similar as far as having a great trigger pull right out of the box.
But honestly, I think that this surpasses the PPQ trigger.
I do too.
Or the PDP
completely.
trigger,
Yep.
which is really good. You're right. It's a great trigger. But there's something about the way they've done it. I mean, the take-up's really sweet, the crisp break.
Incredibly short reset.
Well, I remember the first time you picked that up
Yeah.
and you tried the trigger and you were like, "Oh my gosh!" You
Yep.
know. And we know triggers.
It,
I mean,
it reminded me of one of my custom 1911s or my 2011s that I have with about a 2-pound trigger on it. It was just absolutely incredible.
Well, I think one of the things with Canik is, you know, they have made so many changes much quicker than your standard gun manufacturer.
Yep.
They're able to switch things around, and it's just been really phenomenal to see. And to me, the Rival was like the pinnacle, and then they came out with the steel version, and it's like, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
really stepped the game up and set the bar for a lot of other companies with as far as striker-fired pistols go.
Yeah.
Because predominantly in the past, all of your striker-fired guns have been polymer framed, with the exception of the Walther and then the just released M&P with the all steel frame.
Right.
But so it's really a game changer. It's got a full size grip that really fits your hand. It's molded well. It points just naturally. You can close your eyes and draw the pistol, and the sights are just right there when you open your eyes.
Yeah, the grip angle's really nice. Yeah, and two, it's really funny how, you know, we were with all steel pistols.
Yep.
And then it went to steel and polymer. Or steel and aluminum,
right?
And then steel and polymer, and now we're back to steel and steel. It's just funny how that changes.
We've came full circle.
Yeah,
we've really came full circle. I think people have really started to realize the benefit of having an all steel frame gun. The extra weight really helps to mitigate the recoil of the pistol.
Yeah, but you know, it's more geared toward competitive shooters.
It is,
or those who really want to get good accuracy. You know, it's not necessarily a concealed carry gun for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 42.5 or almost 43 ounces unloaded, and then you throw 18 plus 1 in the magazine. It's a heavy pistol to put on your belt and carry all day.
Yeah, but you'll have guys that'll do it.
Oh yeah, I'm one of them. I'm one of those guys. But you know, it's almost a comforting feel to have that weight on your belt and know that pistol's there if you need it.
Well, if you think about it, all the advantages of a full-size gun with maximum capacity and low recoil, and you put all that together. I mean, if you were in a self-defense situation or at your home, what would you want? Would you want a small little, rain,
right? 12-ounce pistol or something,
or do you want something that's substantial,
right?
But of course, there are give and takes, and definitely the weight is the biggest, and the size. It's a bigger gun.
It's a full-size pistol. Yeah, it's absolutely a full-size gun. It's got a 5-inch barrel on it and a full-size grip, and then if you add the mag well and extended base pads and stuff that come with the kit, it's a big gun.
Yes,
it is a big gun, and but the benefits of it, just having that all steel frame that soaks up the recoil so well.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
But Canik again. I mean, it's just amazing. Well, the accessories. I mean, that is crazy. Yeah. All the different things that Canik puts with their pistols, even a holster that comes with it.
Yeah, the kit was incredible. You get the mag well, you get 2 magazines, you get the aluminum base pads. You get the iron sight plate that's on the pistol with the adjustable rear sight and the fiber optic front. But then you've got, 4 other plates in the box that have a fixed iron sight plate for a red dot, and then 3 other plates.
I think it's 5 actually.
5,
total.
okay. Yeah, and then you've got the other plates that you can mount different red dots on with different bolt patterns.
Right, right.
So all of your common red dots that are out there, the common bolt patterns for your common red dots, come in the kit right out of the box.
And it has an extended mag release, or you can go with the minimal mag release.
Right.
Just a lot. It's just it's almost like a custom gun.
It is. It really is.
And then with all the slide cuts, especially with the white model, the chrome is what they call it. It's flashy.
It is. It is.
To be honest with you, when I requested it originally, I wanted the dark side. But they sent this one, and I'm glad they did, because that is a really cool looking gun.
It looks like a custom 2011 that you would buy.
Yeah.
You open up the case and it's got the hard chromed gun in there, and it catches your eye. It pops. It really pops. And in case you guys don't notice, it's sitting back here behind us because on a live we can't handle it, or otherwise YouTube will kill the feed and you guys won't get to enjoy this anymore. But so we've got it sitting behind us just to keep our little busy fingers off it, so you guys don't actually see us touch it. So we have to put it back here behind us.
Yeah, it's kind of silly, but there are reasons.
There are, and I understand the reasons behind it. With the current world and climate that we live in today, there's definitely a reason not to have people handling a firearm on a live.
I think one of the other things about Canik is the price.
Yes.
The one thing about it, typically with budget firearms, there are cuts that have to be made to produce that gun for a lesser expensive price. Right. I think with the Canik, you can lay it down with a Walther, you can lay it down with a HK, Glock, whatever, and it doesn't look like a budget firearm.
It doesn't. The machining on the firearm is absolutely flawless. There's no tool marks inside the slide. There's no tool marks inside the frame or on the outside of the frame. Everything is meticulously machined and polished and cut just like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think too, I like the grip inserts, instead of just panels.
Yep.
Because it really allows you to get a full texturized grip on it.
It does, and you can custom tailor it to your hand to where the gun fits you and molds to your particular hand size.
Right.
And that's a big benefit for a lot of people. You've got, like me, I've got huge, gorilla hands. And, people have medium-sized hands. People have smaller hands.
Little baby hands.
Yeah, and you have to, if you want a pistol that you're going to sell to the masses, you have to tailor that pistol to where people can adjust it to where it will fit almost everyone. And it really does.
And a lot of times it's not necessarily the grip size, it's the way you grip it for the natural grip angle.
Yep.
So it may be, my hands may be smaller, and so I use the small backstrap, but then my natural point of aim is off.
Right.
So you should always line up your grip with your natural point of aim.
It's a great point. When I'm shooting a 1911 single stack, I like a flat mainspring housing. The pistol points very naturally for me with a flat mainspring housing. A 2011 with a polymer grip and a flat mainspring housing points low for me. So I have to use an arched mainspring housing on that one to bring my natural point of aim up to where when the pistol comes out of the holster, the sight's indexed properly.
Right.
And the same way with this one. You can tailor it to where it fits you and molds to you absolutely perfectly.
I'm really just dying to reach back and
I
grab
know.
that gun.
I know. It's hard to sit here and talk about it without showing you guys exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, but still, it's like it has a really good solid feel to it.
It does.
And it because we're so used to polymer frame pistols, which we've been spoiled by that because it's a light gun. It's easy to use, easy to carry. And like you and I both have always said, if we had one gun, it would be the Glock 19. But when you pick up something like the Canik, it's like, wow, there's just something about this that just makes you want to just shoot it.
I've been a 1911 guy for a long, long time, and you as well. And picking up the Canik, it just feels like I've got something substantial in my hands.
Yeah, I think that's probably a lot of it.
Yeah, it really just kind of takes me back to my early days of competitive shooting with 1911s, and when I pick that gun up, it's almost like an old friend in your hand.
Right. Yeah, because years ago, and it's been 20 years ago, when I was doing a lot of IPSC matches, and that was, the power factor with 45 ACP, that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you
Because back then it was still 175 for
Right.
the power factor.
Right. And
Yep.
so if you brought a 9 in, you had to really be on.
Yep.
Now, the thing is you probably would have been on a little better, but
Well, with something like that, for sure.
but that's when the locks really just first started coming out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and they were starting to get in there, but typically the guys that were really winning the matches were using 1911s.
They were. Yep, absolutely. One thing I really like about the pistol is the light and slide on it.
Mm-hmm.
They took a lot of weight out of the reciprocating mass, which once again helps to reduce muzzle flip. You lighten up the slide, you've got less reciprocating mass, and you have less recoil. And they have skeletonized the slide on that pistol as much as they can possibly lighten it. And it's easy to grab with all the cocking serrations on it. It's easy to rack the slide. It's easy to manipulate all of the controls on the gun. And it's just an incredible slide.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you grab it on the grip, you can rack it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing that they did, which aesthetically looks really cool, is the barrel fluting, where they cut all these cool flutes and stuff on the barrel. But for me, with a gun like that, with an all steel frame gun, I want as much static weight as I can up front. And that little bit that they took out of the barrel, that's a little bit of static weight that they took out of the front, which will help a little bit more with muzzle flip. Now, it's not a ton of weight, so it's not going to be a huge difference between an all steel barrel with no fluting versus one with fluting. But the fluting, it adds to the aesthetic, but I think it does increase recoil marginally. So for a true competition gun, I'd really like to see that one with a solid barrel that doesn't have the fluting in it.
You get that little bit of weight up front. Right.
Yep.
But it's a beautiful pistol. Maybe
It is.
they may be coming out with just the full size instead of the extended.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a 4-inch barrel, 4.5-inch barrel. But they did that with the Meta.
Right.
And
I'm glad you said that because I always mess it up.
well, I'm
Meta,
not sure.
Mete.
I think it's Mete actually. Mete. But it's
Mete.
Well, the other thing is too is you pronounce in Turkey. Canik is really pronounced Canik.
Mm-hmm.
Canik. So what I always say is, because people will go in there and they'll say, well, it's supposed to be Canik. And I'll say, well, turkey is pronounced Turkey in Turkey. So we're going to go with Canik.
It's Thanksgiving around here all the time, baby. It's turkey.
It's turkey. But yeah, the magazine capacity is phenomenal. And two, you've got all these other Caniks in the Canik line. Because typically you're going to buy that if you're already a Canik guy.
Right.
You've already got a couple of Caniks.
You've already got the Mete and then the TP9, and the next progression in the step is to upgrade to the Rival.
Right, and it just gives you a lot of extra magazine capacity.
It does. Yep.
So that's one thing that I like. And two, holster options. Now they do the holster that they include with it is funny because originally the holsters were okay. I mean they've always been okay. But I think they've really stepped it up. It's got kind of a basket weave pattern on the Kydex. It is a belt holster. But what I love about that, and it's one thing when you buy a new gun, especially one that's just come out.
Yep.
You can't find a holster, It's like, well, you got to have it custom made, or you can get a guy from Kydex, to make it the holster. But there's one thing that I really like is you can get that pistol and bring it home and pull it out of the box, holster it, go right to the range. You could, even if you were there at the shooting range.
As long as you're right-handed.
As long as you're right-handed. As long as you're correct-handed.
That was the one thing that I talked with Century Arms about last year with the Caniks, was making an ambidextrous holster that you could just switch the clip from one side to the other. That way it would be a truly universal holster for righties and lefties. And they haven't done that yet.
Well, they should.
I know. I don't disagree. There's a whole bunch of us lefties out there. And, we need to be taken care of.
That's right. They're missing the market.
That's right. Don't ignore us. Don't ignore us.
We'll call them after
we
finish
will.
here.
That's right.
Because they're all at SHOT Show. We're having our own SHOT Show here.
Well, they're 3 hours behind us, so they're just now finishing up with the show for the day and getting ready to go to all the after parties and where all the business is actually conducted at SHOT.
Right, exactly. And then here we are.
That's right. Hanging out with you guys, having a great time, talking about the new Rival. It's a great evening. It is a great evening. Yeah, that's It's an incredible pistol, extremely accurate. Accuracy-wise, I would put it on par with like the CZ75s.
Oh,
just right out of the box, just incredible accuracy.
Yeah, usually what I do is when I shoot for accuracy, I'll do like 3 or 4 segments and then just pick the best. Just because I want to show the real potential accuracy of the pistol, not something I'm missing or whatever.
It's human nature. If we're shooting offhand, sometimes you can, you just have a flyer. And it's a cold flyer. You know that you pulled the trigger and the sights weren't aligned like they were supposed to be. You do it, I do it, we all do it. I mean, it just happens.
But with that one, the first set was just clunk. It was just one jagged hole.
Just one ragged hole.
It was just easy to just shoot. I mean, it was just easy to shoot. And of course, that 5-inch barrel was hard to miss.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice thing with it. It's got the longer sight radius, so it's easier with a longer sight radius to get a tighter, more crisp sight picture.
And I believe those are Dawson Precision sights, and it's got the fiber optic front sight.
Yep. Yeah, that bright red fiber optic. And, I've been using Dawson sights for over 20 years.
Well, you're the one I heard about them the first time.
And their front sights, their fiber optics are absolutely the brightest in the industry. There's no one else's fiber even comes close to them.
Right.
And I recommend their fiber optics. If you've got a handgun that you're wanting to put fiber optic sights on, the Dawson sights are absolutely the best out there in the market, bar none.
Yeah, and for that type pistol, it being a competitive style pistol, to me that was the best option.
Yep. Yeah, neat feature with the gun, it's got index points on the right and left side of the frame for your thumb and also for your index finger, so you've got a consistent index locating point on the frame. And a lot of guns don't come with that. You see that with more of your really high-end guns that have the molded index points, like the custom Glocks, the custom 2011s. Those guns have the molded index points in them, but you very rarely see that on a production gun that you can buy for less than $1,000. And it's really nice to see that on the Rival.
Now, the one thing about that point is that it's a steel frame, so they have a polymer insert for your thumb rest.
Yep.
And, at first I saw that and I was kind of like, that's kind of different. But then when I thought about it, it keeps that metal from being on your hand.
Right.
With checkering, and especially with recoil, even more so than in your grip.
Right.
With that thumb just sitting on there, that polymer with the texturing is a lot less abrasive than steel would be.
And there's a lot of companies that are already making aftermarket parts for the Rival. You've got Taylor Freelance, Ben Stoger's Pro Shop, and there's a bunch of other ones that offer aftermarket parts and accessories for the Rival. You can get heavyweight back straps, different magazine springs, base pads. There's all kinds of stuff that's out there that's available for these guns. And then one of the nice things is that really draws me to the Canik is the fact that you can get really good OEM parts directly from Century Arms or Canik as well.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, and they've just introduced their Micro 9. I haven't seen it yet. It was introduced, and I can't remember the name. I think it's SC something, but it's a really small pistol, and they'll have to be producing those here in the U.S.
Yeah, because of the size of it.
Yeah, because it's that smaller size and it doesn't make the Gun Control Act.
Yep.
And so, a lot of people were asking for that from Canik.
Yeah.
When are you going to make one of these that we can conceal carry? They had one of the subcompacts, but it was still the double stack, thicker, like Glock 26 size. But they've gone to that smaller size. I'm really interested to see that.
Yep.
And then with the history of Canik, I know it's going to be just a great pistol.
Yeah, the one thing that really impresses me with it is the accuracy and the reliability of the firearm right out of the box. And a lot of people are kind of hesitant to buy imported guns because you'll have a company that imports them for a few years and then they drop the line and then you can't get any kind of replacement parts. Right. And if something breaks on the gun, you've got just a bag of parts laying here on the table that you can't repair because you can't get replacement parts. And that's once again one of the nice things with the Canik, with them importing all of the OEM parts for the gun. You can get any part that you need for that gun from Century Arms or from Canik.
Right, and I think they've established a pretty healthy line of pistols that are very popular.
Yep.
So, one thing about buying some pistols that come into the country and they're new and you don't really know about them, that's when it really, you turn around and that model's been discontinued and it's over with. And so a lot of the parts are going to be interchangeable.
And you even see that with domestically produced firearms. They'll produce a firearm for a couple of years and then discontinue that line, sell off replacement parts to somebody like Numeric Arms, and then it's kind of hit or miss on whether you can get parts for that gun in the future to be able to repair it and keep it up and running.
Well, it's like I bought one of the Hudson H9s. Yeah. And then the company just went out of business.
Yeah.
It was a U.S. company.
Great gun.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Incredible gun. And I think Daniel Defense has bought the rights to that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it. And that I have extra parts for mine.
Yeah.
Just in case.
It's always good to have spare parts. There's always things that can break. There's things that can wear out. And it's good to have replacement parts and spare parts for your firearms.
Right. It is. We're at 20 minutes. Hey guys, we're at 20 minutes.
20. We have talked for 20 minutes.
Straight. I don't think y'all have even taken a break.
We don't breathe much. Welcome to our conversations that we have.
This is my first live. Like ever. Like watching.
So, I forgot to mention, guys, hey, if any of y'all out there have any questions, comments about the Rival or anything else, please make sure you chime in. We're here for you as well, not just for ourselves to talk about this pistol.
But if not, we'll sit here and just talk.
We will.
And y'all can talk about guns.
And y'all can listen.
Now, there are some things, and I look back there just now because, not having it right here in front of me.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do like about it, they do have the mag well that goes, but even without that, it's a beveled mag well.
It is.
Bottom.
It's flared.
So, and if you want the extra weight, and sometimes a mag well helps, with your hand to keep it kind of solid.
Well, I love a mag well on a pistol because it gives me heel support on my hand, but it also helps to drive my hand higher in the pistol, so I get a higher grip on it.
Right.
And that's one of the big benefits that I think that you get with a mag well is not only easier reloads, but driving your hand higher in the grip, getting a more consistent, stable grip on it, and locking your hand in place.
It's funny because I know that we've dealt with this before with having more compact size pistols. The Springfield Armory XDM Elite 10 millimeter, and it had the magwell on it. You picked it up and you couldn't get you couldn't get your hand around it because it had that extension.
Right, my pinky's hanging off on the bottom of it.
Well, and then it had that magwell, but it bunched your hand up. So, if it's a smaller grip, it could cause some issues.
And, the all-steel Walther is the same way. It's got a really short grip on it, and it does my hand the exact same way. When I pick it up, my pinky, it bunches all my fingers up, and my pinky is riding on the magwell. It's very uncomfortable for me.
So not only is he has big hands, but he's also left-handed on top of that. So
and a prima donna.
Well, everybody already knew that. They could go and say it. Another thing, though, that I do like about the Canik is the kind of the high power cuts at the front.
Yep.
So it has that thinner slide. So it makes it easier to reholster.
It does.
Especially with competitive shooting.
Yep.
You want to be able to get that in the holster without kind of bunching up, pulling it in and out.
And it helps to reduce weight on the front of the slide as well. With that thin cut on the front, you're taking more weight off of the front. You don't need a whole lot of weight on the front of the gun. So you pull that weight off the front by the panel cuts on it, and it reduces it even more and lightens the front of the gun even more.
Right.
So it transitions faster from target to target. And then when the slide closes, you don't get the muzzle dip from the weight being forward on the slide driving the muzzle down.
Now, for you being a gunsmith for over 20 years, you can look at this slide and the hours it took to put all that together. I mean, you can appreciate that more than most.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of times, guys will go, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? It just ups the price of the firearm.
Yep.
And so I think it's really cool. One of the things about Canik is that they're a privately owned company, but they are a defense contractor worldwide.
Well, that's where they initially got their start. Back in 1997, they started as an aerospace defense contractor. They had contracts with Boeing. They had contracts with Lockheed Martin and several other huge worldwide aerospace companies where they were providing parts for them.
And they're approved by NATO.
Yep.
On top of that. So, I mean, it's an SO 91000, I think.
Yeah, ISO 1000.
Yeah. But it's 9001.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of quality control that goes into that. That doesn't mean that just because a company's that they keep up like they should. Yep. But it definitely gives you an indication that, they have the ability.
That's right.
And I think, that's one of the things that Canik has proven.
Yep. Over and over.
Yes.
And the thing with the TP9, the TP9 is used by militaries all over the world. And that's a firearm that they still produce to this day. It's domestically sold in the United States as the TP9, and then they've got several model variations from there.
Yeah, the V2, the SF, the SA, the DA. And that's another thing. It was originally based off of the Walther P99 in a lot of ways. There were some things that were a little bit different, but it had the decocker on the top,
right?
And that was a big controversy at one time. And then they did away with that with the SF, but yet they still produce some of the double actions in some of the different models.
Yep.
So it was really kind of cool to see a lot of different offerings. And really what that does, it just gives us a lot of choices.
It does.
We've all got different preferences. And while I'm not a decocker guy, I mean, I see the advantages.
Sure.
At
Absolutely.
Times. And so, or different things, double action, But I think with the way they've moved, and really with the SF, they really started kind of getting like that. They were really humming.
Right.
And then,
the triggers improved with it and got even better than they were.
And then they worked with Salient Arms, and they did a collaboration with those guys, which says a lot. Because Salient Arms is one of those are really extremely well-made parts.
They are. Yep. Great high-end guns, high-end parts. Those guys have made really high-end guns for, going on 20 years now. God, I'm getting old, guys.
He is getting old. He's a grandpa.
I am a grandpa. I beat this one to being a grandpa.
Yeah, that's all right. That's fine. I'm patient.
I was too. Somebody else just rushed things.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. But Canik didn't rush this. So
they did not.
That's a beautiful thing.
They did not. They hit a home run with that one for sure.
Now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop in, and we'll be glad to say a few things.
Yep.
We may know the answers. We
may not.
But we hopefully.
Somebody was talking about a Canik compact that was supposed to be coming out at SHOT.
It is. It's their subcompact, and we were talking about it a second ago, but I can't remember. I've looked at it, and I just kind of saw glimpses of it, but I haven't the model number. I think it's SC something. I just haven't seen it. But
we were kind of given a little heads up about that one about April of last year that they were producing it in production and going to be importing it or producing it in the United States, and that it was coming. And last year we were actually told that it was going to be like third or fourth quarter of last year when it would be here. But if you get that late in the year, you might as well push another couple of months and then just release it at SHOT at that point. And I think that's what they did.
Well, it's funny with when COVID, a lot of things over the past 3 years or so, a lot of companies stopped doing SHOT as far as, they kind of stopped SHOT. They stopped NRA. And so companies were starting to push guns out at different times.
Right.
And I think that's kind of cool because it's not all at once. And so kind of gives us a little bit more, we see this, and then you see something. It kind of keeps things interesting all through the year.
And it also, a lot of times, a lot of the firearms you see at SHOT the reality is they're prototypes. They're maybe even non-firing prototypes. That they have a concept, they have a design, they have an idea, and they have a kind of a baseline for when they're going to be able to actually finish the gun and bring it to market. But a lot of the guns that you see at SHOT you may not see them on the market for another year before they actually finish up all the R&D and testing with it and go into production with those firearms. So it's nice to see when companies like Canik, when they bring that firearm to SHOT, that firearm is ready to go out to the market.
Well, we got this gun well before SHOT. Put the full review out before SHOT. It was like, and that was part of their strategy. Because it gives guys, when they go to SHOT, they've already got a glimpse of what's going on.
Some of the stuff that's there. That's right.
And the reliability was exceptional. There was no issues whatsoever with reliability.
It's what I've come to expect with Caniks. They just work. They just work. They're great guns, especially with all of the. I still can't get over all the parts and accessories that come with that gun. And the black model, I think the base price, the dark side, the base price on the dark side is about $850, which is on the high side for what you've seen in the past from Canik. But when you look at that compared to like a CZ Shadow 2. It's half the price of it.
Easy.
They're $1,500, $1,600, $1,700, and you can pick that one up in all black for around $850.
And that's just the retail price.
Right.
You get into the market price, and it gets even less. And it's by far the least expensive
competition gun you can buy.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Right out of the box. So it was funny because the Rock Island Armory RIA 5.0 came out right at the same time, and I'd taken this out to the range, and honestly, the 5.0 is like a whole different animal.
Yes,
but
that's a industry-changing firearm right there.
Yes, I mean there's some design features with it, but it was funny because this did not take away from the excitement that I still have for the rifle, the SFX-S, and because it's more streamlined, it's more what we're used to as far as even the recoil pulse and everything, even though it's a very soft shooting gun for what it is. And then the all metal, and and again, like we were talking about with originally steel, and then it was steel and aluminum and steel and polymer. I think it's given this new generation of shooters an appreciation for those all steel firearms and some of the advantages.
Well, that maybe they haven't ever had,
right?
Because they're in the past it's always been, well, that was Granddaddy's 1911. I carry a polymer frame Glock because I've got double the capacity and it's half the weight. But now you're seeing the newer generation. They're being exposed to all steel, high capacity firearms that are ergonomically correct, that fit your hand very well, shoot exceptionally well, have really high reliability, and you can depend on them just like you can a polymer frame gun.
Right, which has not always been that with the 1911s.
No, it has not.
I know when a lot of tuning, a lot of times.
There's a lot of gunsmiths that have made a very good living over the years just fixing all of the problems with production 1911s.
Right. But but I think that there's a lot of processes now that have kept that from happening as much.
Yep.
A lot of the CNC machining and a lot of the uniformity. It really helps to kind of keep things. And I think that's one of the things with the Canik. I think with the state-of-the-art facilities that they're using, that lends a lot to...
It does.
Not only the quality, but also the price.
Yep. Well, and coming from the aerospace industry, they understand tight tolerances. Everything you build in the aerospace industry has extremely close tolerances, extremely tight tolerances. Everything has to fit to a print, and if you're off by just a little, you scrap that part. And I think they've taken that mindset and rolled that over into the Canik line of pistols, and you can see it with the Rival, the way they built that pistol.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Now it's funny because some of the other models that they were doing previously, they have a white version, not of the I think it's the SFX, but it's one of the standard FSX.
Right. It's the SFX, not the -S, which is a steel variation.
And they were doing some white models and some different things. And I was up at Classic Firearms for a factory tour, and I was doing some stuff with those guys. And they told me they had them out, and they said, these models, we can't keep them. In fact, they buy them from other dealers and other distributors because they're just so popular. And it's funny, it's like there's certain guns that people kind of get connected to,
right? They gravitate toward.
And I think that if somebody buys a Canik, they really, and for the price, they're like, okay, what's my next Canik? And it's just like this one. When this came out, these guys were in the comments were already going,
where can I get it?
Well, I've got two. Yep. I want this, I want that. I love Canik. And there's in fact, I think there's a Instagram page that says Canik Nation or something like that. And people are just loving it. And I think it's just awesome to see that, because what that really does to me, and it's funny, this is a Turkish company. We don't necessarily agree with a lot of their ideals necessarily, but they're making some really high quality firearms.
Yes.
Not just Canik, but a lot of their shotguns and a lot of their other firearms. And they're coming to market with a lesser expensive price, but yet the quality is right there with all the big boys.
It is.
So to me, what it does is it's competition.
Well, it raises the bar for quality for domestically produced products, and also raises the bar for domestically produced products to lower their prices to maintain their competitive edge.
Right, and I think that's
with
great.
these imported products.
I mean, we've seen a lot of new, like Springfield Armory is one of them. I mean, we're seeing like they're just putting out more and more models. They're doing more, and I think it's funny. I think when we first started into the gun, and we were gun nuts right up front, so we were buying multiple guns. But a lot of people, you know, they have their shotgun, they'd have a couple of handguns and a rifle, and if they were a real gun nut, they'd have 12 guns.
Yep.
And I think the average for guys that are really into firearms has grown exponentially.
Yeah, I don't count the number of guns anymore. I count the number of safes.
Yeah.
Rude.
Hey, I
I'm
call it.
counting that also.
That's right. Well, Beth, this is 401G. So
That's
one of
right.
these days.
Fingers crossed.
That's right. The 401G retirement fund right
Yeah,
there.
401G. Because, man, the thing about firearms is that the prices continue to go up on them.
Man.
And, you know, my first time I went to a gun shop, there was a Colt 1911, brand new. It was 80 series. And it was $325, brand new. And, well, you know, the 686 Smith & Wesson, $350. The Colt Cobra, or King Cobra, $350, $375. The Python, it was I think $450.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even touch an original Python for what, $2,000, $3,000,
Or an original unfired, you know, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000.
right?
And depending on barrel length and caliber, it can go up from there.
And two, I think, you know, there was a time where there was a lot of surplus coming in, and surplus would come in really cheap, and then it would start to, you know, and when that would run out, man, the prices would go through the roof.
Well, you know, we've seen that recently, just in the last few years, with the Mosin Nagants.
Yeah.
The Mosins first started coming in, you could get them for $69 a piece.
Right.
And then they went up to $79 and $89, and now they're $350, $400 for that same rifle.
Exactly. So, you know, and then, but that also translates to the newer guns. And, you know, and then the more threats to whatever, you know, and it's not only just gun control. It's like what we saw with COVID.
Right.
I mean, guns went crazy, and you couldn't find used guns.
Yep.
People were buying them up and stocking them up. So, you know, the thing about it, if you already have a Canik and you love it, or you have a couple, and then you see something like this, I mean, you're not throwing your money away is the thing.
That's right.
And, you know, you're not going out and buying a jet ski that after, you know,
3 years it's lost half its value. Yeah.
Which, hey, I love them, you know, and
Sure.
there's a place for that. But, you know, that's the one thing about firearms, and I think that's one thing that's helped Canik as well, is because you've got a lot of fans. Similar to the Glock.
Yep.
You get fans behind there, and I mean, you know, I've got to have every one. You know?
Well, you know, the thing is, with a Glock, there's two sides of the fence with that. There's I love it, and there's I hate it. And we don't have any politicians when it comes to Glocks. Nobody straddles the fence with that one.
Right.
They either love it or they hate it. And I really haven't seen that with the Canik. You know, you've got guys that they love it or they like it, but I don't think I've ever met anyone that shot a Canik that's like, nah, I hate that one. It's just awful. I have never met or talked to anyone that says, no, not for me. Don't like that gun.
No. And then now they're continuing to make a better and better product.
Yeah.
Better firearm.
Well, and that's the thing that I love to see with a company like that. They start off with a great product. And they don't just settle for that. They continually improve and develop and design and refine that product until they get to the next level. And then they start over with a new line.
Right.
And they did that with the TP9. Great product right out of the box. And then they did the Mete. And another great product right out of the box. Raised the bar even higher. And then they went to the Rival and raised the bar even higher. And now the Rival, the all-steel Rival, and set an extremely high bar for domestically produced striker-fired pistols.
Right. Well, you know, it's funny, but we've seen so many new designs lately, and they're getting more shootable, more control over it, better sight alignment, better ergonomics, better sights, and then you have the red dot sights that's taken and you know, you're getting more accuracy, faster shots, and you know, it's funny to see the gun industry grow, technology-wise, innovation-wise, and it's really exciting.
Well, you know, could you imagine today buying a pistol that was available 20 or 25 years ago that It may work 100%. It may not. Odds are it's probably not. There's gonna, a handgun you bought 20 or 25 years ago. Odds are you're probably gonna have issues with it: failure to extract, failure to eject, failure to feed, accuracy issues, awful trigger. And those guns, they go to the gunsmith and he tweaks it and tunes it and refines it and makes it what it should have been when it came from the factory. If somebody bought a gun like that today, they would blast it all over the internet how horrible and awful that gun was.
Well, I think the internet too is a key.
Yeah, it has been.
Because companies can't get away with just putting out stuff.
Subpar products.
And then the word just kind of not getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something's going wrong, it's there immediately.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got YouTube reviewers that will, if they get a product that's junk, they're going to tell the world about it.
Right.
Hey, I got this gun, and don't waste your money on it.
Right.
Save your money and go buy something else. And there's a lot of guys out there like that have millions of followers, and people are like, they listen to those guys. They're like, I'm not buying that.
Right.
If they come out and say, hey, you don't need to spend your money on this, they won't.
Right.
And that has forced a lot of these manufacturers to really up their game with the products that they send out.
Well, they have a little bit of fear and trepidation before
Absolutely.
they release something.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing is, I think it forces them to release a better product instead of releasing something that maybe wasn't quite ready for the market, and they're like, if somebody has issues with it, we'll repair that one when it comes back. It forces them to up their standards on what they release to the public.
Right, and more uniformity.
Yep. Yeah. Consistency, uniformity, and just higher quality overall.
Right.
You see it with Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, Taurus was like a 70-30 gun. 70% of them worked, 30% of them didn't.
The only thing that was good about Taurus at that time was they had a lifetime warranty, and you could send it back and they'd do it right.
Yep.
Finally.
That's right.
But yes, now over the past 5, I remember when we took out the G2.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the compact, and we took it out, and I was kind of like, I think Nate at Guns on Deals might have sent it to me. So I was like, okay, Taurus is okay. Taurus is, whatever. But I didn't have many reviews.
Yeah.
And I remember when you and I were standing there at the range, and we shot it, and you looked at me, and you went, what? Wow.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, wow, for the money.
Didn't expect it.
No,
Didn't expect
the trigger
it at
was
all.
great. This gun shot well. And then they came out with the G3 series, and that was like, wow. And then they, and so they really pushed. Now they're pushing to the limit, and they're really putting out some great products.
Yep.
And I think it's been like when the SIG P365 came out.
Mm-hmm. Great example.
You had this 10+1 that was half the size of the Glock 26 that I at that time was carrying.
Yep.
And I had to look at that 26 and go, why?
Yeah.
And I just put it up. Now I still carry the Glock 26, maybe just out of nostalgia.
Yeah.
But, I do carry it because I just love it. But the P365, and it was funny when it first came out, it had some issues.
It did. It had a lot of issues with the striker. Strikers breaking and strikers failing in it.
But they fixed it.
They did,
and it became the #1 selling concealed carry option out there.
Yep.
And so then a bunch of companies jumped on that. And so then Springfield Armory came out, and then, Ruger and all these different companies.
Smith & Wesson, and you name the company, and if it's a big domestic company, they have a subcompact option now to compete with the 365.
Right. And so it's just like with the Canik, it's the same thing. You come out with something really exceptional for a reasonable price, and guys are going, okay, that's taking our market share.
Yep.
And so how can we regain that? So I think it's just a win-win for all of us.
It is. It's win-win for the consumer because they're getting a better, more reliable product at a lower price. It's win-win for the manufacturers because it forces them to raise the bar, and with their development, with their quality, and with the products that they're releasing to the market.
Right. If you take the Smith & Wesson 5906, great pistol, one of those, the 59 series definitely was one of those. Yeah. And, you take those firearms, and at the time, they were just awesome, loved them. And I still do, and I have a number of them because I just love them. But when you compare that to modern firearms, oh man, it's like clunky, big. That's like the Ruger P90 series. It's just, it's just a clunk, Now, if you've got one, it's still effective, It's an effective firearm, and it's an effective self-defense gun. But the one thing is you take that and then you look at some of the new offerings, like the Walther PDP. I mean, what a firearm. That thing is awesome. And you look at it and you go, wow. Well, then think about it. 20 years from now, what are our handguns going to look like?
Right.
I mean, it's pretty exciting.
Well, I tell you, I think just kind of based off of what we were looking at today with that new Rock Island Armory pistol, that pistol, and I tell you guys, if you haven't seen it, it's what's the model number on that one?
It's the RIA, and it's Rock Island Armory.
Yep.
RIA 5.0.
Yep, Mustang 5.0. Yep. But they should have called it a Cadillac, because I'm telling you, that pistol...
Lamborghini.
Wow. Yes. That pistol is going to change the firearms industry as we know it, as far as semi-automatic handguns. It absolutely is.
Well, you know, the system, the straight back design, the accuracy, the lack of recoil. You know, it's a heavier pistol, and it's a bigger pistol. In a sense,
it is, but it's still lighter than the all-steel Rival.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that just the design itself is going to lend itself to new designs and new offerings, and guys reaching for the stars. And you know, really, when I first shot that one, it was like, wow, it was just different. You know, it was so different. And then you think, well, you know, what could come from this? You know, what is, and this is, you know, that's part of what we were talking about a minute ago, is that you take this firearm design and you start to really hone in to where it's so natural, and it becomes more and more and more natural. You know, I just love it.
If that's the initial offering right now in 2023, and other companies look at that and start creating their own variation of it, you know, the sky's the limit as far as where that could go, where that design could expand to.
And then what else could pop up?
Right.
So, you know, and that's the beautiful thing about the free market and capitalism, and, you know, it's just that competitive spirit that gets you out there. And you know what? We can do this and make money. We can do this and not even make money, but we can offer something that's even greater to, you know, to fit. One thing that I do love that's happened lately is the move for going toward female shooters.
Yes.
The PDP-F, the Smith & Wesson EZ, and now the Equalizer. And some of those guns that, you know, where is, you know, my wife, she grabs a hold of a slide and it's like, you know, she's like, you know, at first. And, you know, a lot of new shooters, people that just aren't used to that recoil or that pulling that slide back.
Right, the weight of the slide and the recoil spring and the hand strength that it takes to manipulate the frame and the slide to be able to cycle around into the chamber. And I tell you, I think Smith & Wesson with the EZ, they set the bar really high with that one.
Yeah, they really did.
That's, you know, years and years you go into gun shops and you're like, oh, I'm looking for a pistol for my wife. Oh, you need to get her a Smith & Wesson J-frame. I mean, I've heard it.
Oh, I've heard it.
I could retire on pennies the number of times that I've heard that lie. Okay. And I love a J-frame. J-frame's a great pistol, but a J-frame is a pistol for an experienced user.
In fact, I've got one in my back pocket right now.
I've got one laying right over here beside us, as a matter of fact. But, you know, I'd touch it and show it to you guys, but, you know, hey, sorry. But it's a heavy double action trigger pull. Yeah. You know, they're 14, 15, 16 pounds on the double action pull out of the box. And for a lot of women and a lot of smaller frame guys, the trigger pull is so heavy that you can't shoot that gun accurately and you can't shoot it fast.
But even so, you know, you've really got to spend time with that.
You do.
You've got to really put a lot of rounds down range.
Short sight radius. I mean, everything's working against you with that gun. Lightweight, heavy trigger pull, short sight radius. I mean, those are all minuses when it comes to shooting a firearm accurately in a defensive situation. And to be able to come out with the EZ, that is a lightweight pistol, super easy to rack slide. Anyone, you know, can rack the slide on that gun. It's incredibly easy. And hence the name, obviously. But incredibly light, easy to rack the slide, soft recoil, soft shooting. It's the gun that gun shops should have been offering to women for the last 100 years.
But I think the technology has reached it to where it's a reliable option.
Right.
You know, before if you'd have put one of those weak springs in there, it would have been horrible in reliability.
Oh, it would have. You'd have like what you see with a Glock. If you put a light recoil spring with it, the gun either won't go into battery, or when you pull the trigger, it actually pulls the slide back out of battery as it's cocking the striker.
Right. But, you know, it was funny. I was at NRA in Houston, and I was talking to a friend of mine that works for Walther. And it was the PDPF had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
And he honestly got teary-eyed about the potential of helping women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, that, you know, a lot of times the gun industry is painted as this,
villain,
money-hungry
mm-hmm.
villain, and all they want to do is sell guns. But, you know, when you get to know, they're people, just like we are. And, you know, they're companies. It's people that started a company that had a vision. And so, you know, you got to be careful how you kind of lump people into something. So,
and I love that companies they're not out there just for $1. They're producing a product to provide something to someone, a need for someone to be able to protect and defend themselves, and a product that will allow them to do that in an efficient manner.
Well, you know, it was funny when Smith & Wesson introduced their EZ. In fact, one of the guys got in touch with me about when I did the Equalizer review. But he called me and said, what do you think about this? Do you think that this is something, do you think there's a market for this? And would you be willing to review it? And it was funny. My mother, she's now she's in her 80s, so it's a little different. But she had a little arthritis in her hands.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went to the gun show looking for her a firearm for concealed carry, we did pick up one of them J frames. She couldn't even close to pull that trigger back. We looked at some different handguns. We ended up getting one of the SIG P238s.
238s. And that was really one of the first ones that had a lighter recoil spring in the slide that was easier to manipulate.
But, you know, it was funny because there was a lot of things. She was even looking at the Beretta tip-up barrel, Tomcat, and all this other stuff. But the one thing that was funny was it took a long time, and it really made an impression on me about that. So when when Smith & Wesson introduced that EZ, it was like, it really hit home with me. And, you know, my wife carries one of the Shields, and she just grabs it and does it. You know, we put some tape, some of that arachne grip, little tape on the back, so it made it easier. 2, she can push it. Right. You know, push the frame. So I taught her some techniques, and now she's so used to it. But, you know, anybody that doesn't have a lot of experience, I mean, I just think it's cool. I think it's great where the gun industry is going in a number of directions that I think are good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things I'm curious to see with the Rival is running a lot of recoil springs in the gun. You know, where can you go as far as a lighter spring? Because it's probably got a 16-pound spring in it right now. Can you drop it down to a 10-pound spring or an 11-pound spring and the pistol still be reliable?
Right.
And you know, you lighten the recoil spring, you're lightening the reciprocating mass. You know, you drop 5 pounds off the recoil spring, that's 5 pounds of reciprocating mass that you've dropped off. That really helps to flatten the pistol out even more. So with the heavy steel frame and a light recoil spring in it, you know, that could be an incredibly soft shooting pistol.
Right.
You know, we do it all the time with the CZ75s for guys that are using them for competition. You know, we'll run an 8-pound or 9-pound spring in it in 9mm, and I'm curious to see if we can do something similar with the Rival and drop that recoil spring weight down and really flatten that pistol out.
Right. Just make it beautiful.
I
don't know if you can make it any more beautiful.
What about the trigger on that one?
The trigger on the Rival? We were talking about the trigger on the Rival a little earlier. The trigger on the Rival is absolutely incredible. It really reminds me of the trigger on a custom 1911. You've got a short amount of pre-travel, a crisp, clean break that's probably 2.5 to 3 pounds, and then a reset that's, like I said, it's like a 1911. You've got maybe 30 thousandths of reset, and the trigger's ready to go again. It's got the flat face shoe in it with the safety built into the shoe. No external thumb safeties or anything on the gun that you have to manipulate. And that wide flat shoe gives you a really good, solid, even purchase on your trigger finger. Whether you're too far in on the trigger or too far out on the trigger or just right where you're supposed to be with the pad of your finger, that wide trigger still gives you a really, really good consistent trigger pull and helps to minimize you pushing or pulling your shots right or left based on finger placement on the trigger.
And I will say that Robbie, you know, building custom 1911s, custom 2011s, STIs, all the different work, fine-tuning triggers. When I first handed him the SFX-S, he went, whoa, 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 I mean,
Yep.
that impressed. And honestly, I was that impressed. And it's very similar to the original Rival, the polymer frame Rival.
Yep.
That trigger is just absolutely phenomenal. If you go to a gun shop and you see one of the original Rivals, just the standard Rival, check out the trigger pull. If while you're in the gun shop, just go ahead and test that trigger pull. You're going to be a believer.
The reason they named it the Rival is because the trigger pull on it will rival a $5,000 custom gun trigger pull. Okay, and that's no joke. The first time you pick it up and pull the trigger, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the trigger is just phenomenal.
Yep. Got any other questions over there, Beth? Nope, all good.
Everybody's just enjoying
Yeah.
chatting with each other, and so many of our longtime customers.
Yeah.
People that have been with us a long time. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Fun to
I just
catch
want to
up.
say I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in tonight for our first live. It's been let's just say it's been an adventure today, getting everything set up. I don't have any visible cuts or bruises from my wife right now, but that could change later.
We all survived.
But it's been really good getting our first live up. It's been awesome having my buddy Don, Sootch 00, come over and hang out with us a while tonight and talk about the new Canik Rival. And I tell you guys, I've really enjoyed just sitting here and having a conversation. Like, this is what he and I do when we get together. And, it's been really nice just to include you all in on the conversation with us so y'all could hang out with us for a while. And we're going to wrap up and sign off. But I just want to say thank you again for everyone that tuned in tonight. Make sure that you subscribe below and share this video with your friends. Once the video is over, it will be published on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and rewatch it and share it. And hey, please keep the conversations down below going. And if you guys have any questions for me, just pop them down below and I'll get to them in the next day or so. But once again, thank you. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.